Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I'm about the only real father's rights advocate in Western civilization: Australia, Canada, USA, and Europe. I got links to those countries and a couple of European countries. I've worked with and consulted with people all over the world. After I got full custody of my daughter when she was 7 months old in 2001, I worked with several father's rights organizations. I worked as a paralegal at different law firms, including McKinley Irvin, the largest family law only firm in the greater Seattle area, which makes it the largest family law only firm in the entire upper court, one-fourth corner of the United States. Since Seattle's the biggest metropolis in that area, the biggest law firm in that city is going to be the biggest law firm in that whole one-fourth of the United States. I've contracted with different attorneys. I worked as a clerk at the courthouse. So I've seen it all. I've won in district court. I've won in small claims court, district court, superior court, court of appeals. I had a mini win in Supreme Court. I've had clients who've won in the Supreme Court of my state. The number one strategy, and really the only strategy for any father when you go to court, and this is, you can say this for you good mothers out there who getting alienated by a father. The number one strategy when you go to war in family court is to get on the offensive and go for full custody and call the other side out for everything that's wrong with them and get on the offensive and do the war of attrition like I talk about in my first or second video on TikTok. If the other side is going for full custody because you're mentally ill, dangerous, domestic violence perpetrator, child abuser, and then you say, oh, I want to do 50-50 because I want to be nice and I think kids need both parents. You just sabotaged your own case. You are saying the mother is a perfectly fit and fine 50-50 shared custody parent. And then she turns around and says, I'm afraid of the father because he's an abusive narcissist and mentally ill and child abuse and all this stuff. They're going to believe her automatically because you just said she's ethical and believable and wonderful and moral. You just sabotage your own case because you swore under oath. See, when you're going to court and you're fighting over something, let's say you're suing a doctor for malpractice. And the doctor said, yeah, I did do this. Let's say I'm suing a doctor for malpractice. And I say, the doctor performed surgery on me and I had an infection. I had to go to another doctor to clean up that infection and do the surgery right. And the doctor says, yes, I admit. So me and him are fighting over the surgery and we're going through a lawsuit. I'm going through a lawsuit. He agrees that he performed the surgery. He agrees that he did an incision and some details that I'm talking about. So the only thing we're fighting over is whether he committed misconduct or negligence or he's dumb and not smart and doesn't pay attention to what he's doing or whatever. So let's say that he says, well, I'm a good ethical doctor. I got all these accolades. I never had a problem with surgery. And then I go in and say, he's a great, wonderful doctor. He has a great history. And that's why I went to see him. I wouldn't do that and give him that ammunition and sabotage my case and help his side. Now, if you talk to father's rights movement idiots who lost in court and they started a father's rights group because they lost and they're traumatized by the loss and they use losing strategies to lose, and then they start a father's rights group to mentor men on how to win after they lost, a lot of them will say, well, don't stoop to their level. Don't talk bad about the mother. That'll make you look bad. If I'm a prosecutor and I'm going to court and I got a pedophile I'm prosecuting or a rapist or somebody who assaulted and beat up an elderly woman, I wouldn't say, well, I'm not going to talk bad about them and how violent they are. I just hope that the jury finds out by osmosis that that person's really abusive. You see how stupid that sounds? That's how stupid your attorney or any father's rights group is when they say, well, go for 50-50. Or an attorney says, well, you'll never get 50-50, so don't try. If children need both parents and the family's broken up, the obvious best answer for both parents to be involved is 50-50. Why would we not do that? Oh, because the courts never do it. Okay, so the courts are corrupt. Let's go in and fix the courts. Just like the Jim Crow South courts were corrupt. Just like the courts used to be corrupt when they gave custody to fathers in the early 1900s or the late 1800s, mid 1800s in Europe before the tender years doctrine was invented by a feminist out there. And they started giving full custody to mothers, and dads didn't see their kids for 5 or 7 years. Why do I have to base my legal strategy for justice and truth and the best interest of my child? Why do I have to base it off upon the MO or the modus operandi or the culture of a corrupt court? That's like saying, if I'm your attorney in Jim Crow South and you're charged with raping a white woman, I'm not going to fight that hard for you because they don't like you already. Why did I become an attorney if I'm not going to fight for justice or against injustices or prejudices? So now we got the Jim Crow of family court nowadays with the anti-father agenda. And I know there's women out here, women who watch me, who are getting screwed, but the ratio is like 90-10. I have some women clients who are in women's groups, and they'll disagree with me and say, look, I see way more women. Well, I've seen 25,000 cases, and it's 90-10 in my experience. And plus, 90% of custodial parents are mothers. So, there's 20 million, last time I checked, there's 20 million single custodial mothers, 2 million single custodial dads. That's a 10-to-1 ratio. That's 90-10. So, and I'm all about what's best for kids. And 90% of the time, the dads are getting screwed. So that's why I lean to a father's rights advocate. But women come to me all the time. I'm working with 1, 2, 3, 4 women getting royally screwed. And sometimes if you get blindsided, see, if you play the nice guy or nice gal, you get screwed. You're going to court where somebody's going to play hardball, and you don't fight fire with a water pistol. You fight fire with fire. When you go to a war, when you're in a boxing match, when you're in a football game, you don't jog down the field on the kickoff. You don't try and half-ass it like it's a pickup game in the street with a Nerf ball. If you're playing a real game, you exert real effort. I went to court at first asking for 50-50, and the more that the mother was adamant and pushing that I should only have a little bit of time with my kid or zero time with my kid, it became, and after she withheld the child from me for 40 days straight, and I lived 3 blocks away from the mother, and she continued to go to court and attack me and lie about me, I started realizing this is insane. Why am I giving her the benefit of the doubt and ask for the child should be with me, where I'm going to honor the other parent's relationship? See, a lot of you guys, you're willing to go for 50-50, which is an audit. You're topping yourself out. Here's full custody. You're topping yourself out at 50-50. The other side is going for full custody. They're saying the court can do anything like this. You're already putting a limit on the court. Why would you do that? That defies common sense. My sister with Down syndrome would not do that. If she wants something, she will ask for all that she wants. She won't say, I only want this, or I only want that, or I only want this much food tonight. I'm hungry and starving. I want a full plate of dinner. I don't want just a drumstick or just some mashed potatoes. It's cold and it's snowing. I want a winter coat, winter pants, and some boots. I don't just want some boots. All the statistics and all the data and all the science out there, which is in my flow page that people barely ever look at. Now, you can do your own research and find this stuff, but I give you some links to some things like a scientific study on 50-50 parenting plans for children under age 4. People are still going off of the tender years doctrine. I just talked to a guy in South Carolina. South Carolina's law says we repealed the tender years doctrine. That's from Europe in 1860. That's 160-year-old psychology and outdated science. So that'd be stupid if they still follow that. But you're going to court and saying, 50-50 and the mother's great and the mother's wonderful, catering to that radical feminist tender years doctrine bullcrap. And you're topping yourself out here, so you'll never get custody. And the mother's mentally ill. But the guy I talked to earlier, he was like, I'm going for 50-50. Why? Why would you do that when the mother's sitting here saying, the mother was cool with 50-50 as long as she had a little bit more and got child support? Why wouldn't she go for full custody? She's looking at the child like a greedy whore, and she wants control of the child for child support purposes. She doesn't even care about the child. You care about the child. If you get full custody, the mother can see the child as much as you want her to, above and beyond her time. If she gets full custody, you are never going to see the child more than that time. Get on the offensive, go to war, and grow some balls, and go rescue your kid.